What was the best game of the decade? I'm asking you.
That's a very good question. Is it? It would have to be a playoff game.
Okay.
I would think. The best hockey game of the decade is the 2010 Olympic game where Sidney Crosby scores the golden goal. I agree. I think the best hockey game.
I agree.
Of the
because the Parise tying it up last minute, like it was great.
Unbelievable.
Great. I'm talking about the best NHL game.
NHL game. Whew. I gotta think it's maybe an overtime playoff game. In recent memory, I don't know.
Name an overtime playoff game. Just pick something.
The Washington-Columbus overtime.
Good pick. Because that was like a major.
That changed the course of the NHL history.
Yes,
because they go on to win the cup after that.
The NHL has named Game 7 of the Eastern Conference first round final between the Bruins and the Maple Leafs on May 13th, 2013 as the game of the decade, the 4-1 game.
Come on.
It was 4-1. That is the game of the decade.
Why?
And the first comment at NHL.com on Twitter is, go to hell. Clearly from a Leaf fan.
What's the reasoning?
Fuck you! That's the reason. Just endless pain. Endless. The Leafs haven't had dry hair for decades. Just always getting dunked right in the toilet, flush. And then they light you up for air because it's not fun if you're dead. Flush. And they just keep doing it.
Brad Marchand.
I can't believe I hitched my wagon to this team.
Brad Marchand called it by far the most fun hockey he's ever played.
Fuck you!
Now, I'm going to tell you something, and this
you
is not
won a cup.
It's not going to be a popular
They
take.
won a cup.
Marchand enjoyed that more. That's what he said. It's by far the most fun he's ever had.
Speed bag the league MVP for 7 games, and you got to play against the Leafs, who had 2 hot scorers, James Reimer, and a bunch of kids stacked onto each other's shoulders wearing a Leaf uniform so that they look like one real adult. That was the most fun you ever had! The Bruins should have won in 3!
Yeah. The Leafs shouldn't even been in this series.
No, they
shouldn't have made the playoffs!
Right. They were not going to make the playoffs.
They were a horrible team!
How does this make for the best
because
game?
They needed a defensive upgrade and they got Ryan O'Byrne!
Screw that.
So they're calling it so. And I'll tell you what, I know why this is game of the decade, guys.
Because it's Toronto.
It's literally a social strategy in American sports to fuck with Canadian fan bases.
Well,
it literally is because we take the bait every time. They use it on the Blue Jays. They use it on the Raptors. Are you serious? No one's picked up on this trend?
Well,
no one's picked up on this?
It's also easy.
We're the easiest marks out there.
Right, because it's also easy because they can't lose in America if they attack a Canadian team.
Right.
And that's what matters. But beyond that, the reason that this is absolutely... Listen, you know what? I agree with them. It is the most iconic game of the decade. And I'll tell you this. That would not be an iconic game if it happened in Columbus, Philadelphia, New York, Tampa Bay, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, any of the California teams, and any other teams that I have not mentioned.
Boston's haunted.
The reason why that is the most iconic game is that game encapsulates everything it was to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and everything it has been since 1968. That game, that period, that overtime is everything it has ever been to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan in my lifetime. And I'm talking about the buildup, the hope, we shouldn't even be here. Oh my God, this might happen. And then it's taken away. If you look at 1993, that's another series that everybody talks about. L.A.
We threw a parade.
The Kerry Fraser missed Gretzky call where he high-stick Gilmore, and that famous picture of Doug Gilmore standing there with blood on his jersey and the assistant captain covered in dark red spots. And that was another one. We shouldn't be here. We lucked into this. Oh my God, they might actually do it. No, Wayne Gretzky. And
no one left on the roster beat the Islanders. No one left on the roster beat the Sens. Oh my God, it's the Hurricanes in the conference final. We got...
And the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they always do, they build you up. They get you excited. and then they crush your dreams.
2013. Did we trash the joint?
Huh?
Did we trash the joint? Did we break windows? Were there mass arrests?
No.
No, because it's what we expected.
Toronto, in one game, got what it was to be, until the Raptors won, a Toronto sports fan, and specifically a Leafs fan, what it was to be a Leafs fan, and what it has been for 54 years.
And we always joke about, oh, here's Connor McDavid as a kid with his Leafs jersey.
Yeah.
You know he burned it that night, right?
Did he?
I assume so.
No, he didn't.
He shoulda.
No, he
Him and Dylan Strome.
Listen.
Anyone who grew up a Leaf fan that didn't quite get it yet got it that night.
The Leafs are an iconic franchise for some of the wrong reasons. A lot of the wrong reasons.
They're literally the only team to ever do that.
Yeah, there's no right reason.
They
the
are
Leafs
iconically
iconic.
disappointing.
Right.
And that game encapsulated it all. That
the
is the
game-
game
Cool,
of the
better
decade.
make my whole life about them.
It's the best game of the decade.
The Bruins didn't even go on to win the cup or anything.
No, they lost. They lost in the
to
finals.
the Blackhawks.
No, but that game wasn't about the Bruins.
Yeah.
That game is about the Leafs. That game is about Toronto. And everybody
it's
else
dumb.
in every other market knows about it.
ridiculous.
Because that's what we are. Or that's what we've been. And I don't want to be that. I don't like that. But only in Toronto could that happen. Because it is so popular here, and we are so crushed every fucking time.
They shouldn't label it the game of the decade then. It's, hey, this is the most tragic thing to happen to the most tragic team in the last 10 years. That's what that award is.
I mean,
Dude,
fair.
Crosby and Ovechkin dueled hat tricks in a game in a playoff game. Everything about that Kings Blackhawks series a few years ago, every single thing about it.
The Carolina-Toronto next-gen game is better than this game.
A game?
There was two times they scored 3 goals in a minute. Both teams back to back.
That's not even
crazier than a 1 3-goal comeback.
Boston won 2 better Game 7s 2 years before that. Like you could have picked any moment, even if you wanted to stick to Bruins, you could have picked any moment from the 2011 run. That was magical. They beat the Habs in Game 7 in the first round. Magical. The next series, you play the Flyers in round 2. The Flyers, who you were up 3-0 on the year before, and then you were up 3-0 on in Game 7, and they came back, not only won Game 7, but they did it by overcoming the 3-0 lead. The following year, you play them in round 2, you sweep them. You leave no doubt. The third round, Tampa, again Game 7. I can't remember if it was overtime. I think Nathan Horton had the game winner. You win that. And then the Canucks, the President's Trophy winning friggin' team, you're down 2-0 on them. Think of all the drama involved and the pump your tires comments and Nathan Horton, Aaron Rome, and Mark Shin. That was the Stanley Cup final.
Thank you.
They won it on the road. They caused a riot.
Thank you.
Do you understand that win was on CNN? They friggin' burned the city down.
News.
They made international news
because of a hockey game.
But I guess
and yet, no, Steve,
no.
The Leafs blowing a lead was more. It was the best.
The hands down worst team to make the playoffs.
The title is
hands down worst team to make the playoffs things. God damn it.
Guys,
that's the best.
You named
Martin St. Louis with the Rangers.
You just
none of that. You could have picked the Rangers. What?
You just named a bunch of teams that aren't the Leafs. It can't be if it's not the Leafs. It can't be if it's not the Leafs.
So dumb.
The Leafs are that big, they're that iconic, they mean that much. And anybody who tells me otherwise, I'll just point you to that game.
Okay, so
I'll just point you to that article. And just tell me that any other team blowing a lead in the 7th game in a first-round series
where they shouldn't have been in the series
could even be in contention for this. Sorry.
Kane winning the cup in overtime.
Sort of
oh, wait, no one knew he fucking scored. Alec Martinez scoring in overtime.
Yeah, there's been OT winning cup games in this decade.
No. Cannot beat that. And that's from the NHL's official website as voted on by their staff.
I'm looking at
Game 7, Pittsburgh, Ottawa.
Nope. Because no one cares, guys.
I'm looking at the list of the all-decade
Small market, who cares?
I'm looking at the list of the all-decade stats, and why aren't they all the Leafs? There's
Well,
Save
because
of
the
the
Leafs
Decade,
sucked.
there's Coach of the Decade, there's Franchise of the Decade. Why aren't they just all the Leafs?
They should be.
They should be.
Money made for the NHL, Leafs #1.
Save of the decade, Fleury on Patan. Just fuck it. Just who cares?
Going wide anyway.
Although I have to say, that was pretty good, even if it was going wide.
Shout out Marc-Andre Fleury. Thank you. I was cheering for you both times you made that save on Babcock. The Patan one. And who wasn't cheering for the Penguins to beat the Red Wings? Beside Red Wings fans, I'm sorry. You won the year before.